really was to
that I felt like I needed, and I was comfortable in that space of just me and God.
Hope is offensive. Hope is desperate.
Hey, everybody. Good morning and welcome to Jumpstart Your Vision with Coach Karen Hilton. It's Monday, and you know what that means. That means that this is the place that we all gather to get anchored in what is most important. And the way that I say it is Monday is a chance to start over. So if you need a clean slate, if you need a fresh canvas, this is the right place. Come on in here. I have an incredible topic for you today. I am so excited about this. We are actually doing a little bit of a throwback because we actually did a course around this in 2020. We're bringing it back because I recognize that there were some things going on in our community, and I always recognize themes. So we're going back to that, and the feedback that we've gotten already once we put the word out that this was our topic, like boom, it hit, it landed. And so I'm so excited to welcome you here. If you are new to this channel, I want to welcome you. My name is Coach Karen Hilton. I am founder and chief vision caster for the Rock Your Vision Masterclass community and TAP Executive Coaching. During the day, I run an incredible, very vision-driven corporate executive coaching practice, and I am living my dream over there. Every single week, I pinch myself when I realize I get to work with some of the world's best leaders. Maybe that's you. Maybe you're watching right now and you are one of my amazing clients. If so, welcome and good to see you again. If you are new to this community, this is the place for vision-driven workplace leaders, entrepreneurs, and the mission-minded. Now, we are a faith-fueled community, and here's what that means. I feel like, I don't know about you, but I feel like I crash landed into most everything in my life. Okay, work, family, everything. But faith has played an incredibly important part of my journey. And so while we are a very diverse community, and I welcome that, I love that. In fact, I think that that is part of what God has called me to do. I am unashamed and unabashed about the fact that I'm a God girl. I'm a Jesus girl. Okay. That is just the way it is. Now you won't hear anything that sounds like perfection in here. In fact, you're going to hear a lot of what sounds like a hot mess. And you're going to be like, why does this girl have a show? But it is what it is. And I hope that you will join us. Do me a favor, take a minute and share this live stream with a few friends, because today we are talking about navigating the wilderness. Okay, just for a minute, we're going to get into definitions and terms and all like that. But for right now, if you are watching this live or on replay, I just want you to come on in here and answer this question. Have any of you felt like you have been in a wilderness season? Have any of you felt like you've been in a wilderness season, let's say in the past 6 months? Anybody? Like, just we'll talk about what that means, but just run with it for a minute. Whatever that means to you, has anybody felt like you've been in a wilderness season in the past 6 months? Just raise your hand. I'm raising my hand. Y'all, we're going to talk about it today. And I promise when you leave here today, you're going to have at least one power play that you can take action on right now. So what are power plays? Power plays are those things that you can do that incrementally help you make progress on your terms. Now, that's going to mean something different for everybody. But the idea is that these are actionable, real, proven strategies, things that move the needle. And today we're going to be talking about the wilderness. And I'm just going to tell you right now, get out your notebook, your pen, put your out of office on. You know how we do it. And today I'm drinking hot water, lemons, and honey. There's no coffee in here, so y'all pray for me, okay? Anyway, that's the way we're going to do it. Grab whatever you need. Grab a friend, get in a conference room. We're going all the way in today. I promise. But first, let me say good morning to all of my YouTube fam. If you are following us on YouTube, I am super glad to have you here. It's a really special thing to be able to make vision something that we talk about. we as leaders have so many things to talk about, but I'm telling you, vision is the new superpower for the 21st century leader. If you don't believe me, just spend some time with us for a little bit and you are going to see what all the fuss is about. I'm just saying. Okay. All right. Let's see who's in here this morning. Y'all know I like to shout you out. So if you are joining live, let me know that you're here. Jump into the comments. If you're on YouTube and you're watching this live, I'd love to know that you are here. If you are watching on replay on Facebook or on YouTube, put in the comments #replay so that I know that you're here. We're going to start doing something really special for our replay fam, because I don't take it for granted that you're here. You could be anywhere. Hey, John Kovaleski. John Kovaleski is our executive technical producer. He's doing the magic in the background, and he is absolutely amazing. So I'm super excited to be able to work with John. If you guys are doing the whole like stream thing, or you've got something going on in your world that involves streaming, John is your guy. You should look him up. Kim Frazier, what's going on? Kimberly is my executive assistant, and she's absolutely amazing. She's joining us this morning. Hey, Kimberly. We have the amazing Carolyn Clark, one of our community members, and we absolutely love her. She is so much fun. We had fun last week, didn't we? I think that was last week, wasn't it? Was that last week? Carolyn, I'm telling you, the coffee. And then we have Amanda Bowen. Hey, girl, what's going on? You know we're about to go in, right? Strap in. We're going. Okay. I want to just kind of give you a little bit of a lay of the land. We're gonna jump right into it, but I want to give you a little bit of the lay of the land and tell you how I got to this topic today. Now, most of you know that we have 4 pillars in our community, and they are vision, focus, purpose, and perspective. And throughout the year, our content aligns to that because we know and we have been able to prove that those are the 4 pillars that every and any vision-driven leader needs to be able to anchor themselves to make progress on their own terms. Doesn't matter if you're in the workplace, doesn't matter if you're a CEO. I work with CEOs. I work with chief human resources officers, chief marketing officers, chief technology officers, you name it. If you are in the corporate space, those 4 pillars can anchor you and help you make progress in your team or in your life on your own terms. If you're an entrepreneur, those are the 4 pillars that can help you make progress on your own terms. And I'm not talking about the kind of existential progress, okay? I'm not talking about the stuff that's out there in unicorn land. I'm talking about the stuff that you can take action on right now. Our entire community, our content, our workshops, our gatherings, all of those things are centered around giving you practical, actionable steps that are fueled through the lens of vision that can help you make progress on your own terms. Well, one of the things we also do is we are incredibly observant about what's going on in our community and in the world, right? Because our vision-driven leaders have to work and live within the context of what's happening around them. And one of the things that became really, really clear over the past several months is that there are scores of people that are being impacted by layoffs and a reduction in work hours, and all of those things. And let me just say, if you are watching today and that's happened to you, or you feel like that's on the horizon, I hope that today we give you some actionable power plays, some things that you can take action on to help stabilize what's happening in your world. We never, ever, 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 ever want to pretend like, everything is okay and like somehow or another, there's just some magic thing that we say and life doesn't feel real for us. That is not honoring, and it just ain't real. It's never been real in my life. I don't know about you. But here's the thing. Whether you are being impacted by a reduction in force or something like your hours have been reduced, or maybe you're in transition or whatever that is, and you are feeling like the rug has been pulled from under you, I want you to stick around. We've got some things for you. If you are that person who is having to give that news. I talked to a group, I worked with a group last week where they are having to give a lot of that news. Do not get it twisted. If you are in human resources or if you are a workplace leader and you're having to give some of that news, friends, it doesn't feel good. It is not fun. And don't let anybody convince you that somehow it's easy, because it's not. It may not always go right. And that's a whole separate episode, okay? But I'm just saying, there are things that we have in common in terms of navigating that system. So we're going to get into it. And I'm going to give you the 5 stages of the wilderness experience. And I'm going to tell you how I got there. But I did not want anybody to be confused. Like, why are we talking about the wilderness? Like, isn't this focus season? Oh, yes, but we're going to talk about it because you are going to learn something to help you anchor yourself, to give you some practical, actionable steps to be able to move forward. Okay, who do we have in here? Oh, y'all. Okay, hold on a minute. My big brother Mark is in here. Mark Joubert. Y'all, just say good morning to Mark this morning. Mark, have you ever joined one of my shows? My big brother is in here this morning, and I'm just feeling all kinds of way. Let's make sure I teeth, lipstick on my teeth, because I'll hear about it later. Anyway, hey, sweetie, it's good to see you in here. And we've got Shireen Douglas. Hey, girl, let's talk about it. We've got some amazing people in here to be able to give some real color to this experience. Okay. So let me see. Did anybody, okay, maybe that question was too personal, but I'm going to ask it again because y'all know I'm a coach. I can deal with silence. I'm okay with that, but I'm not letting you get away with it. I need somebody to answer this question. In the past 6 months, have you felt like you've been in a wilderness season? Not like for an extended period of time. It doesn't have to be dramatic, but have you ever felt like you were in a wilderness season? Let's talk about what it means to be in a wilderness season. But before I do that, I want to tell you how I got to this topic back in 2020. You remember I told you that we actually did a class called Mastering the Wilderness Experience in 2020. How did we get there? One of the things that I saw and I heard over and over and over again from the leaders I was working with during the pandemic, there was a theme. And the theme was they were all describing what they were feeling the same way. It didn't matter if I was working with clients in the automotive space, if I was working with my clients in the healthcare space, if I was working in tech, it didn't matter. And I literally began to like take notes and kind of identify those key words. Those words, and just put an emoji in the chat if you have ever, if this resonates with you about what you felt during the pandemic. I heard things like, I feel completely overwhelmed. I feel like I am drowning. I feel like I can't get my bearings. I feel like it doesn't matter where I look, there's no safe place to go. Anybody feel like that during the pandemic? Those were the words and the phrases that I heard over and over and over again from my CEOs, from my GMs, from my executive leadership teams, from my director level leaders. Those are the words that I heard over and over and over again. And I'm like, why does this sound and feel familiar? Well, over the pandemic, we all binge watched a bunch of stuff. One of the things that my family binge watched was Bear Grylls. Does anybody know who Bear Grylls is? You get extra points if you know who Bear Grylls is. I'm obsessed with this man. Bear Grylls is I think he's like a ranger, like he's the UK version of an army ranger. He goes out into the wilderness, out in the middle of nowhere, like he volunteers to go into these places around the world that nobody would ever go willingly, or the majority of us would never, like he volunteers to go. I got to watching it because my son and my husband loved watching him eat goat eyeballs and, reaching in dark holes where there were things that could kill you in a second. So naturally, I would be, somewhere nearby, and I got to watching because I was fascinated that this guy would go into these environments that I will never see the light of day. Knock on something. It just won't happen. And it got me to thinking about the fact that in the wilderness, if you are lost in the wilderness, you will explain what you are feeling very much the same way. If you go and read stories about people who have been lost in the wilderness, they talk about being lost, overwhelmed, not being able to get their bearings, feeling disoriented. There are some parallels. Y'all come with me for a minute. There are some parallels to physically and literally being lost in the wilderness. Did you hear that? There are some parallels to literally being lost in the wilderness. But here's the thing. Coming through the pandemic, as we began teaching this material and I began studying the material and the team began looking at the concept of being lost in the wilderness, there's something really powerful that we unearthed as we were trying to help our clients and our students navigate the wilderness of the pandemic. Here's the big aha. The pandemic was not the first wilderness we've been through. Every one of us has been through a wilderness experience before. Many of you know the story of my mom. I have this amazing career. I'm raising, kids with my husband, doing all the things that we do. And then it felt like out of nowhere, but it wasn't out of nowhere, but it felt like it was out of nowhere. And I am in a wilderness, trying to care for my mom, trying to figure out how to work a job, how to take care of kids, doing all of those things. I felt disoriented. I felt overwhelmed. I felt like there was no safe place for me to go. It felt like bad news was all around. And let me just tell you, if you are experiencing that right now, maybe you have been laid off. Maybe you are in an environment where you are surviving, trying to take on all of the things that come out of being in an environment where many of your team members have been affected. That can feel like you're in a wilderness experience. Okay, just to kind of lighten the mood a little bit, last year, y'all know every year I do something to push myself outside of my comfort zone. Well, last year, I thought it would be a good idea, since I teach this whole wilderness concept from a leadership perspective. I'm going to take a wilderness course. I took a class from an incredible company called SARcraft. They're based here in the Metro Atlanta area, called Women in the Wilderness. This was an all-day class out in somewhere in Georgia, in the middle of absolutely nowhere. Beautiful country, absolutely nowhere. I'm going to take a wilderness class. I mean, how bad can it be, right? Like, it was maybe 45-minute drive from where I live. How bad can it be? I'm going to go take this wilderness course. So they gave you a list, and I got my list of all the things, and you could only bring, certain things. Like, I couldn't bring my makeup kit or my lash kit or any of the things. I had a list of things that I needed to bring. One of the things that I had to bring was a knife about this big, okay, and other things. You get the idea. So I took this class, and I took the class because, I'm like, if I'm going to teach this, I really want to understand what they're talking about. And this is a guided class, so it's going to be fine. I got out in the middle of wherever it was I've just blocked it out of my mind. And the first announcement was, hey, everybody, we are so excited that you're here. Just as an FYI, this is spider season. Now, I do a lot of things, and I do a lot of things well. Spiders is not one of them. We make a fire, we have lunch, we learn safety, we look at all the things in our backpack and why they're necessary. We look at how to use supplies that are naturally found in the morning in the wilderness and all like that. We do all of that. And I'm like, I'm good. I just made a fire. Did you see that? I made a fire. I'm basically a wilderness expert now. After lunch, she's like, the instructor is like, okay, here we go. We're going out into the woods. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. And then somebody said, Karen, freeze. Don't move. Now, I've got on my cute little matching outfit and my cute matching backpack, and I froze. And the girl said, look up to your left. And I looked up to my left, and right here was a spider about as big as my hand. The woods where we were was infested with spiders. As we walked down this little walking path, you could look overhead and see massive spider webs all along the path, probably half a mile. If any of you are triggered, I probably should have given you a trigger warning. I am so sorry. But here's my point. At one point, I was standing at the top of a ravine with about a 50-foot drop. Now, my fellow campmates, they're super flexible and, into the nature thing and all like that. They skip down the little thing to the bottom of the ravine where there's a stream. And the point of that exercise was to teach us how to use water in an open environment like that. And they're like, oh, come on down, the water's fine. And I'm standing there literally frozen, physically, mentally, emotionally frozen. We were like 15 minutes into the hike. Anybody? Okay, I'm going somewhere, I promise. In the middle of the wilderness, in the middle of a place where I actually have other people I can ask for help, I felt like I was completely shut down. And in your life, if you are experiencing a wilderness season, I'm not just talking about you're having a hard time or you got into an argument with the person you love the most. I'm not talking about that. A wilderness experience is where you have an overwhelming, complex, extended experience of difficulty. Like there is no sweet song or there's no word of affirmation. There's no pat on the back that's going to solve your solution. And it feels like it is going on and on and on and on. I'm going to ask you again. In the past 6 months, have you been through a wilderness experience? Many of you have, okay? In the wilderness experience, you can experience difficult circumstances that threaten your comfort, your safety, and your sense of normal. That is a wilderness experience, okay? We all go through wilderness experiences. We all have been through wilderness experiences, and there may be a time when we experience a wilderness again. So the question, friend, is not whether or not we will experience a wilderness, but when we experience a wilderness. And here's the good news. You do not have to succumb to a wilderness experience. You can navigate a wilderness experience in a way that helps you not only get through the experience, but come out on the other side stronger and better. Karen, what does that have to do with me? And, I just got laid off. Help me. Let's talk about the stages of the wilderness experience. There are 5. You ready? Y'all get your pen, your paper, tell a friend. First, when you are in a wilderness experience, assess your environment. Don't do anything else but assess your environment. Every wilderness experience that you have, every wilderness expert that you see will tell you the first thing you do when you recognize that you're in a wilderness experience is you need to assess your environment. Don't start running. Don't start picking up things. Don't start making decisions. Come on, somebody. Okay. Don't start going along with what everybody else is doing and following trends. Don't start buying a bunch of this and a bunch of that. Stop and assess your environment. When you assess your environment, you do a couple of things. You identify, wait a second, where am I? Where am I? If it's with your finances, you first need to make a decision about where you are. You need to anchor yourself. We did an amazing personal finance class. If you did not register for that, it was absolutely amazing. It was absolutely free. And Ed Miller did an incredible job. If you participated in that, I need y'all just to put a note in the comments. Okay. I want you to assess your environment. And one of the things that Ed said is the very first thing that you do when you are working towards stabilizing the power plays for personal financial freedom is to first assess your environment and get your emergency fund. Okay. You've got to understand what you need before you start going to grab stuff. Y'all write it down. Step 1, assess your environment. You ready for step 2? Here we go. Step 2 is to get oriented. This is where you identify what's around me. Okay. Do I have, am I in the middle of a valley and there's a mountain nearby? Now we're going hard on the analogy, so stay with me. Okay. Am I standing at the edge of a cliff and I'm about to fall off? If so, I certainly don't want to be taking a hard run, right? You need to get oriented. If you have some sense of, are you north, south, east, or west? Come on, y'all get in here. Okay. Get oriented. What are the things that are around you? What is happening in your environment, right? Now we're going to get to resources in a minute, but you first need to get oriented, right? Are you standing at the top of a mountain and you've got a bunch of stuff below you? Are you standing near water, or do you need to get to water? Some of y'all just got that. Step 2 is get oriented. Step 3, y'all ready? Get to safety. Any wilderness expert will tell you that if you are in a wilderness experience, don't just stand there and freeze. You need to get to safety, right? If you are 1.5 miles away from water, or if you see off in the distance a cave or some sort of structure that can protect you from the elements, you need to get from where you are to some place where you have cover. Okay. If you are in a situation in your life, in your work, in your finances, in your business, get to safety. Get someplace where you can get refuge. Resist the temptation to try to figure it out on your own. Resist the temptation to stand there and just paddle. I mean, this is hard on the analogies, guys, but you've got to understand when you are in a wilderness experience, you cannot stand still. You have to use the resources that you have. Okay. I study a lot what I call the unlikely and the unqualified. Those are the folks who shouldn't have made it. They had no reason to make it. They had no reason to hold on. And every one of those people, these are the people that you read about. You know, this is the woman, the 80-year-old woman who was, a janitor for 15 years. And she saved $2 million and gave it away to her alma mater. This is the person who is differently abled, and yet they go and travel the country speaking and teaching and doing the things that they want to do. Okay, what did they do? They don't sit around thinking about, oh my gosh, there's nothing I can do. They use what they have. How can you use what you have to make progress? How can you use what you have to anchor yourself? But in order to use what you have, you first have to know what you have, beloved. You have to know what you have. If your business is struggling, what do you have around you? That's going to get me to stage 4. Identify your resources. Who are the people that you have around you? What are the community resources that you have around you? Somebody needs to be taking notes. Okay. Somebody needs to be taking notes. Okay. Hold on one second. Y'all hold on 1 second. I'll be right back. Well, that was awkward. Anyway. Okay. Where were we? We were at step 4. Did y'all catch that? Identify your resources. What's around you? If you have, I was talking with a leader the other day, an entrepreneur who is struggling in a very specific way in her business. She is trying to figure it out on her own. She is, trying her best to be scrappy. I talk a lot about being scrappy. Here's the thing. So often, and I say this all the time, you have more options than you realize. Part of mastering the wilderness experience is identifying the resources that you do have, right? Our temptation is, as entrepreneurs, I'm guilty of it, you go out and you spend more money to try to plug a hole. But friends, sometimes the path to progress is not adding more to your plate. Sometimes it's stepping back. Some of y'all just got this. Sometimes, and we've had this happen recently in a couple of situations, sometimes you feel like, oh my gosh, my business didn't work. I got laid off, and it feels like the end of the road. But friend, let me just tell you, it's not the end of the road. These shoes. It's not the end of the road. Sometimes identifying your resources around you means you need to take a step back. When I was early in my business, I wanted so hard to just, be able to say I was in business. Every entrepreneur does this. But I actually needed to take a step back and anchor myself. I needed to anchor my finances. I needed to give myself time to build a business. Maybe you need to give yourself time to pivot in your business. Friend, if you are an entrepreneur, that there is no shame in doing that. Identifying your resources may be, hey, maybe I need to take a little part-time job to be able to anchor my finances. And let me just say this to all of you that are thinking about, I was coaching somebody last week who has been impacted, who's recently been laid off. And we're looking at all the different strategies and the options and all that sort of a thing. And she very much wants to go back into her industry. But in the meantime, she's got to supplement her family's income. And the idea of taking a job in the short term that is outside of her industry completely frazzled her mind. She's like, I can't do that, Karen. You don't understand. Oh, friend, I understand. I need you to identify your resources. Sometimes your resources don't look like a whole lot, but let me just tell you, early in my career, when I started in private practice, I went and took a part-time job with an agency. Some of y'all know this story. I took a part-time job with an agency to give me time to build my business, but I also wanted to supplement my income. Now, I was an experienced leader. Okay. I had just come out of being VP of a HR operation for a global tech company, but I needed to supplement my income. So I went to an agency and I went to work as an admin. Y'all not gonna like me when I finish with this. I'm just telling you, but I need you to come in here. I recognized that one of the resources was this agency. Okay. Let me just tell you, the very first client that I got in that agency was a coach. Did I plan it? I'm not making this up. Y'all can go talk to her. Essie Escobedo at Office Angels. Go ask her. Go tell her the story. Say, Karen told me the story and I think she's lying. She will tell you the very first client I had was a coach. Listen, friend, when you trust God with your vision, even in the midst of the wilderness, when you step back from what's happening to you, you get up out of your feelings for a minute, you assess your environment, you get oriented, and you identify your resources. Let me just tell you something. It's a game changer because God provides for his kids. I'm just saying, okay? There are so many options in the wilderness, but if you do not understand that the wilderness has stages, it's not just this great big thing that goes on forever and ever. I say to you guys all the time, if you have a pulse, you have a purpose. That means even in the midst of difficulty, even in the midst of the worst thing that you think could happen, you can find resources. You can assess your environment. You can recalibrate and reorient because that's the way we're designed. Humans are some of the most resilient, if not the most resilient organism on the face of the planet. I don't need to tell y'all stories of people coming out of things like the Holocaust, the civil rights movement, all sorts of incredibly intense, very difficult circumstances. And they were able to anchor themselves. And the difference between people who survive wilderness experiences and people who don't is that they take a step back, they anchor themselves, they assess the environment, they look around and they use what they have. My goodness, the beautiful people in Ukraine. Now I know I'm getting deep, y'all, and I'm so sorry, but I just need y'all to lean all the way in here, and I need you to tell somebody. Can you imagine the people in the Ukraine who are under incredible, just unbelievable, inhumane conditions? I saw a video the other day of somebody having a birthday party in the middle of the war-torn ravages of their environment. Friend, I need you to tap into the deepest part of who you are if you are in a wilderness experience. And I get it. I am not suggesting in any way that we pretend like whatever just happened didn't just happen. This is part of assessing the environment, right? We have to recognize where we are and what we are experiencing. If you are traumatized, you have to own that. If you are experiencing depression or anxiety, y'all have heard my story. Go back and look a few episodes ago where I shared my experience recently with anxiety. Maybe you're experiencing anxiety. You have to own that. Okay. Maybe you're sad or disappointed or you feel betrayed. Own that, right? Get help. Get help. Find a licensed provider, a medical doctor, a psychologist, a psychiatrist. Don't y'all mess with me this morning. I told you I wasn't coming to play. Okay. And if you're new here, I'm sorry. Welcome to me. But I'm just saying, own where you are and know that it's okay to be where you are. The power play is to take ownership of where you are. Okay. Stage 4 is to identify what are your resources? I hope y'all are writing this down. And somebody is going to write me, I just know it. And you're going to say, Karen, I can't with you, but don't send it because I'm not going to read it. Stage 5, plan your next steps. Once you have assessed the environment, you've gotten oriented, right? What did I say? Let me just go back to my notes here for a minute. Okay. For a minute. You assess the environment, you get oriented, you get to safety, you identify your resources. Step number 5 is to plan your next steps. Now you have not just data points. Come on down here. Not just data points. You don't just have information. Wait for it. Now you have intelligence. You didn't have to ask anybody. You didn't have to spend any money. But now you have intelligence. Friend, you have more options than you realize when you are in the wilderness. I don't care what kind of wilderness you're in. Okay? When I got the notice, the phone call that my mother was catastrophically ill, in that moment, I could barely breathe. I think I sobbed my way through the first 3 weeks that she was in ICU. I had 3 kids at home. I had a job, an international job. I had all of these things going on. See, it still gets me. Let me just tell you, if you are in a wilderness experience, I want to encourage your heart. If you are in an environment where the rug has been pulled from underneath you, you have more options than you realize. I want to say to that person that feels hopeless, I see you. You have more options than you realize. You may not know what they are today, but I want you to know you have more options than you realize. You may not be able to change what is happening. You may have to own what is happening. I had to own that I could not keep my mother from leaving me. But in that moment, when I finally looked around, and Mark Jobert, I'm glad you're on the phone. I'm glad you're on this call, because that man right there, when my life was falling apart, no amount of education, no amount of degrees, no amount of contacts, no amount of good intentions or strategies kept my mom from leaving this earth. But I'm telling you, that one right there, Mark Jobert, was my rock. He was my absolute rock. And sometimes your resources are right in front of you, and you're busy looking here and looking there and trying to follow all the trends and trying to get followers and trying to get all like this. A few weeks ago, I did a keynote. A few months ago now, I did a keynote. I've told you all the story, but I need you to hear me. I did a keynote. I was tired. I was exhausted, but I was going into an environment where I wasn't sure I actually belonged. When you're going through a wilderness experience, it can be very lonely, y'all. I'm just saying. Like, let's put aside all the pretense. I know y'all are, celebrities and all like that. But if you're all of that, I just need to talk to the little girl, the little boy inside of you. I was going into an environment where I did not feel like I belonged. And I literally, I could just feel myself tensing up as I walked into that auditorium of 300 and some odd people. I did my keynote, and after the keynote, I had a line of people. And let me just tell you, it was not because I'm so fabulous. It was because I was obedient to the topic at hand. It was not an easy topic. But I went in there and I did what I was supposed to do, and I gave it my all. A woman came up to me afterwards and she grabbed my hand. She cut in front of, she cut to the front of the line. Y'all heard me tell this story. And y'all go and ask Philip Williams, because he was there and he saw it. She cut to the front of the line. She grabbed my hand, tears streaming down her face. And she showed me a bunch of paper where she had been taking notes. And she said, "I'm not even supposed to be here." She said, "You have no idea what you have done for me today." She was working the event. She wasn't even supposed to be she was supposed to be working. But something I said caught her ear. And she said, "I took 3 pages of notes. I couldn't write fast enough." She said, "I'm a single mom of 5 kids. I wasn't even supposed, I'm not participating in this event. I'm working the event." She was like, "You've changed my life today." And I'm standing there blown away. Why do I tell you that story? She was going through a wilderness experience. The resource that she had was right in front of her. What if she had been all caught up in her stuff? What if she had not been paying attention? What if she had not taken the moment to come up to me afterwards? I'm just saying, you never know what resources are right in front of you. I got to get out of here, but I got one more thing to drop in your spirit, and this is going to be good. So sharpen the pencil. So what do you do? What do you do next? Now you know the 5 stages of the wilderness experience. First of all, you can have hope that any wilderness experience, if you have a pulse, if you are breathing, every wilderness experience has an end. Every wilderness experience has an end. Trouble will not last always. Now, that's not in the Bible. Okay, I'm just saying. But whoever it was wrote that, and my folks sing that all the time. I'm just telling you, trouble don't last always. You need to remember that every wilderness season has an expiration date. Standing in the middle of the wilderness when I had that great big spider staring at me, and all those spiders carrying around, if you know anything about me, I'm just saying, I was counting the moments, but it felt like forever. I'm thinking to myself, why on earth did I do this? Somebody explain to me why I did it. First of all, who let me do this? Every wilderness season has an expiration date. It will not last always. And beloved, if you have a pulse, you have a strategy now to understand how to repurpose the wilderness. That wilderness can no longer roar at you without you having the ability to roar back. I'm just saying. This community exists so we can do that work together. Here we go. 1, reframe your mindset. I need you to reframe your mindset. 2, have a conversation with yourself, because the most important conversation that you have when you are in a wilderness is with yourself. Do not get it twisted. There is no expert, there's no book, there's no strategy, there's no pill, there's no anything. First, have a conversation with yourself. You need to change what's coming out of this right here. That's the second thing to do. Third, when the unexpected happens, know when to pivot. Okay? Focus on the things that you control and influence. Let everything else go. When you're in the wilderness, focus on what you can control. If you got somebody with you in the wilderness, they got their stuff and you got yours. Do not get it twisted, okay? Friend, I don't care what you're going through. Here's the last thing. You have options when you're in the middle of a wilderness. We're going to be doing some special things in the month of May for those of you that have been impacted by layoff, hour reduction, all of that sort of thing. Why? Because we can. We're a community. This is what it means to rock your vision, friend. I don't know what you're going through, but I want you to say it with me. I have more options than I realize, and I'm going to discover what they are. I love y'all so much. Thank you for joining me this morning. It's gone fast, but I promise if you stick around, you're going to learn a few things. Love you. See you next time.